Facebook Libre partners are backing out.
This week on Future Forward, we look at banking and money.
Then, is AI awesome or a pending robopocalypse?
I'm Alexis Cordato.
I am Steve Rosenbaum. Let us launch. I am not going to lie, I do like saying robopocalypse. It just seems so terrifying and yet sci-fi graphic at the same time.
It's here.
It is here.
Hence the name of the show, Future Forward.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good. We've got 3 chapters today. Chapter 1 is banking and money. And then chapter 2 is AI and all of the good things that possibly could come from AI. And then chapter 3 is AI and the dangers of superintelligence. So for those of you who are listening, we're saving the scary part for last, so you can just tune out the last chapter if you don't want the scary part.
Yeah.
And as always, a huge thank you to our friends at IEEE Spectrum who brought us the scary part and who will be with us in chapter 3. But let's start right at the top because I'm not going to lie, when I heard about the fact that there was going to be this Facebook currency thing, I thought, really? Are they going to pull that off?
Yeah, I mean, this is like not my favorite in the sense that anything that adds to Facebook's power and influence in the world, any listeners of this show know, is probably something I'm going to not be in favor of. But it's not surprising. So those of you who don't know, Libra is Facebook's endeavor into the cryptocurrency space. And basically the news is that one by one all of the partners are bailing: eBay, Visa, MasterCard, and Stripe.
So I find Stripe the surprising one.
Why?
Because I just figured you could argue that eBay, Visa, and MasterCard are all kind of old money. I mean, eBay's been around a long time. Visa and MasterCard are old physical credit card companies. But Stripe is the new kid on the block. I thought they would, because they don't have a physical card, because they're not already they're in transactions. I don't know. I mean, to me, from a canary in a coal mine perspective, if I were Zuckerberg, that would worry me.
Well, I think, I don't know nearly enough about Stripe and their governance and internal culture, but I do think
it's
that
Jack,
maybe,
right? It's Jack Dorsey.
Yeah, this is the beginning of no, Jack is Square. Stripe is
oh, you're right.
Dublin.
I got it.
It's the two dudes from Ireland.
Oh, I got it wrong. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Yeah. So it's I think it maybe might be the beginning of players sort of trying to just keep things there, trying to stay the course, meaning Stripe can continue to grow by partnering with other platforms, whether that is Shopify or really any e-commerce platform. And I don't think they need to sort of put too many bitcoins or coins in one basket.
All right, so go look in your crystal ball and go down the road. Is Libre dead? I mean, is it done?
I don't know if it's dead so much as it's a signal that any Facebook endeavor is going to be harder in terms of its ability to achieve dominance in a category.
So maybe we skip the lead into this, coalition falling apart story. The PayPal pulled out a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
And what was interesting to me about that is that the guy who's running Libre for Facebook was the former CEO of PayPal.
Right.
So presumably you would have checked with your buddies at the former job you had and made sure they were cool with it before you, I don't know. And
something just, I think, doesn't feel right, but this is sort of, it's probably so many different teams, so many different parts of the organization, but it's also, I think, a reflection of Facebook trying to do a lot. I mean, on one side you have them, dealing with all of this political stuff, and now they're trying these new initiatives in sort of unproven waters. I think it's just they're biting off more than they can chew, and I think partners are hesitant to invest in an organization that frankly is being questioned and scrutinized left and right.
So not really in our rundown for today, but just as a sidebar, I've been writing today about Elizabeth Warren posting an ad that said that Mark Zuckerberg endorsed Trump, and then saying in the ad, this is fake, because to test whether or not Facebook is going to live up to its latest announcement that it's not going to review any political ads for fact-based truth.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and there's been a skirmish back and forth, but Zuckerberg has a great big platform this Thursday where he's giving a speech about government and elections and the digital world at Georgetown. It's a very big platform. It's going to get a lot of coverage, and he's going to be under some pressure to either walk back this "we're not going to check facts" or double down on it.
Yeah, so if you think about just, the general endeavor of cryptocurrency being mainstream, it's really meant to signal deregulation, right? The decentralization of currency. And for Facebook to sort of be in a position where, the government, media, et cetera, are potentially questioning whether Facebook should be regulated, it basically means there's like some shaky ground there.
All right. So the other interesting headline in the banking space for today, what was the pushback that's coming around the Apple credit card? So this is an article from Payments Journal, which is one of my regular reads every day. I wake up to pay. I'm kidding, of course.
I was about to say what?
Yeah, no. But the headline is Apple credit card trouble in paradise. And you know, you have to read to the bottom of the article to get to the dumb kind of rumbling sound, like from Jaws. But what they're saying is there was very little care put into onboarding new customers and conventional banking fact checking around safety of customers, and they're expecting some fairly large loss numbers at 120 days, or 180 days, which I guess when the credit card has to announce how many write-offs it had in its first 90 days or 180 days of operation.
Yeah. I mean, are you surprised by this?
Well, I mean, here we go. So here's my Apple.
You have it.
I do.
Wow. Is it pretty? Do you have the Chase Sapphire Reserve card? If so, does it weigh the same? Like, does it have that weighted feel?
So here's the card. No, I mean, it's a little heavy, and as a result, it's a little hard to get it in and out of my wallet.
Okay.
And it does have the Goldman Sachs logo right on the back of it, so I don't know why Goldman's getting all upset. I guess Apple did a marketing campaign around the card where they said, built by Apple, not a bank.
And it's the opposite.
Yeah, and I guess
in order for them to do anything, they needed Goldman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me give you my update as a user. It is friendly, and the reporting is really clean, and I like the aptness of it. It seems more conversational and more organized than my other credit cards. So I can see using, and it's the interest rate's reasonable and all that good stuff. So I like all of that. But it has no number on it. It's just my name, and it has no number on the back. So if you end up needing to use it, you have to go to the app, open your wallet, and kind of drill down a bunch of levels to get to the number, which is, it is what it is. I like it, but I don't think it's spectacular.
What are the, say, like, top 3 reasons why I should get one? Because I can tell you why I get my other credit cards, like
the interest rate's reasonable, the transparency around how you see where you're spending money. It gives you kind of, it feels more like an app than a credit card.
Do you think though that if Chase or Citibank or Barclays were to just invest in better designers, that their cards could deliver a comparable experience? Like, is some of this really just about the UX, UI of the interface?
So no, because I don't get any information about my spending habits from any of my other credit cards. It isn't just that when I go to their website, it's ugly. It's that what it is at the end of a month is a whole bunch of numbers.
Do you use
It
products like Mint, though?
I used Mint in the past, but then when it got bought by Quicken, it kind of fell off a cliff.
Okay.
Um, and it also got confused a lot, I found. But look, uh, Apple's a damn big company. B, they're in banking and transactions, and at the end of the day, I think that what they came to understand was that using your phone to pay a bill with another company's credit card and them having no value in that transaction. I mean, the first thing that happens when you get an Apple credit card is it defaults all of your Apple Pay charges to it,
Okay.
which is really brilliant, right? I mean,
Yeah, that makes sense.
um,
Yeah, but don't you think so? I mean, tying back to the article, like in Apple, I feel like they wanted to get in market. They wanted to have a payments product. Facebook wants to get into crypto. Like, it's not shocking that two of the largest tech companies want to sort of get into this vertical that is, a critical aspect about how users live. And so, I mean, for me, what both of these articles have in common is this theme that major tech providers want to sort of be the default epicenter to all things consumer.
yeah, look,
And that's like, sure, like we're going back and forth either way. It's just,
if
it
I
all
were,
freaks me out.
if I were Tim Cook, I would sit in a room and say, okay, what are the barriers to entry for someone to sign up for an Apple credit card? And I would say, what's the most extreme number of barriers and what's the least number? And what's the likelihood of me getting bad credit? So I would say, what if we give it to everybody? We don't check anything. We don't check credit scores. We don't check your social security number. We just give you one and give you a $5,000 line of credit. Well, that's a terrible idea. You're going to lose. You're going to get lots of scams, right? So on the other side, you've got, and I don't know, but when you go into the Apple store to try and buy your new phone, and it goes through, it's not Capital One. Who's the bank that they use as their payment processor for that for the it's
I'm not sure. I mean, some of it is done through your cell phone carrier,
no, this is
right?
for their sale. Anyway, they have a current banking relationship that's incredibly invasive. And it's, so I would guess that they modeled out what their likely losses would be at all kinds of different pressure points about what they give the card away for, and they made a decision that they could afford to lose, you know, some number, 100,000, million, billion, some number. They
Yeah.
right, and all they really need to do when they find out that you are a bad credit risk is shut you off and take the loss.
Yep.
So there's a very high value to them. Anyway, I think this headline is a little misleading because I think the Apple credit card as a product is pretty good, and I think their losses are going to be a headline when they come out, but not a surprise to Tim and his team. That would be my guess.
Okay. Well, we'll
All
see how
right.
it plays out.
All right. So moving on to chapter 2, the
This part's
fabulous,
fun. I'm excited.
wonderful AI world that we're moving into. Um, so this is an article from Ozzy, and it lists kind of a bunch of, hey, here's some stuff AI could do that might make your life better. And I found them a little charming and surprising, I have to say.
This was like the best AI article I've read in a while because they're usually kind of doom and gloom, which I guess is how we're ending this podcast. But before we go down the doom and gloom path, it is nice to pontificate on the promises of AI, from AI powered restaurant menus to dating to therapy. It's kind of fun to think about the potential of sort of those things.
So with the personalized restaurant menus, I was enamored with that idea that you'd go into a restaurant, it would remember who you are and go, "Hey, Steve, the last time you were here, you had the avocado salad. You really liked it."
Hmm.
Having said that, though, is that really AI or is that just metadata?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of where uh, I guess when I think about, because I think AI requires like a lot of data, right? For me, like it would almost require that maybe my seamless transaction history, my food ordering history would have to be logged somewhere so that some supercomputer would follow me around and I'd have kind of this dining passport where when I sat down and sort of like checked into a restaurant that was participating, that a digital menu would populate options based off of my taste and dietary preferences. So like that's like there are lots of things that would have to happen in order to get there, but I don't know if it's so much I guess it is a combination of metadata, but also opting in to have a lot of data accessible by some central vendor.
I was trying to look for a pair of shoes the other day online, and I ended up um, on Zappos, and was a little overwhelmed by the number of choices. And even though I gave the website a lot of information about size and color and style and a bunch of other things, it never seemed to get smarter and kept wanting to show me like there are 470 shoes that match that. I was like, yeah,
Right.
that's 445 more than I want to look
I
at.
mean, there's one challenge, which is like the number of choices increasing faster than you can provide inputs for.
All right, so another thing that Ozzy kind of went down the road of AI making better was dating, both roommates and potentially finding a soulmate, and that I found both um, interesting and a little bit head scratching. Like
So, okay, so I'm in a relationship now, but I went on this online dating binge before I met my boyfriend, and I was a marketer. I sort of treated it like a marketing funnel where I had a spreadsheet, and my hypothesis was that like
spreadsheet.
I didn't know what I didn't know, that I was basically doing like lead scoring too early and sifting out potentially good options. And so unless someone looked like a serial killer and someone who had the grammar of maybe like a second grader, I would just say yes to a first date. And what I quickly learned from my spreadsheet was were basically like things that contradicted how I was filtering on these apps. And so I actually totally buy into this idea that if you talked to AI or gave it more feedback, it would be able to finesse your matches better than the current mechanism of filtering and sorting on the current dating platforms. That should be a different episode, Steve, because
Yeah, no, no.
there's so many secrets I can give away
All right,
about
all right.
online
So,
dating.
so, all right. So we're gonna do a whole other thing about dating because we should. Um, but now let's get to kind of the last little chapter, and then we'll move over to the dark side. Um, AI powered personal assistants. Um, the idea that I mean, I spend an inordinate amount of time. Hey, let's have a call. Well, what about Thursdays? Thursday good? Well, what about and then hey, something's come up. I can't do Thursday. Can you move it? And like I probably spend I don't even want to say the percentage of my week because it's higher than it should be. I've had a bunch of people try to interact with me from their side with AI. You know, hey, I don't even remember the name of what one of them, but it's like kind of it just basically compares calendars and
Hmm.
but I did look at this company Fireflies after I saw that in Aussie they recommended. He's the chief technology officer of Fireflies. This is Sam uh, Yudotong, and I I don't know. I don't know.
You're skeptical.
I am skeptical.
Oh, well, I think X. X.AI.
Yeah.
It's like the scheduling AI.
Yeah.
I have friends who like swear by it.
Have you ever used it?
I mean, only when trying to schedule meetings with people who use it, and I mean, it works.
Can your X.AI talk to their X.AI?
I haven't tried that. Like, I don't have an account, but I do know that I have emailed people who use it. They have sent me a response that they have not sent.
Yeah.
Their AI sent it. I have conversed with that thing, sent a volley of email strings, and a meeting has been coordinated.
Right. So they save time and you don't.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I would like to. That might be a good experiment. That would be a good AI experiment. Which I'll
Maybe
sign
we
up.
should use this and to schedule these podcast recordings.
No, we should just leave it where it's scheduled. All right, all right. So now so now we're moving on. We found an article on our friend IEEE Spectrum site that essentially said, before you think that AI is all fun and games, many experts say we shouldn't worry about superintelligent AI, but they're wrong. And that I thought was a stimulating headline. So we roped in Glen Zorpette, and we're gonna see how he defends the position of this article. All right, so Glen, you've got a particular role in this podcast today. Alexa and I have just spent the last 8 or 10 minutes talking about all the awesome things that artificial intelligence could possibly do on the horizon. And now we come to this IEEE article that says not so fast. Maybe start by, of all the things you guys could have chosen to focus on, why this author in this book?
Okay, so first of all, to start off, I have to make a confession, which is I disagree with the author of that article. I think that article was, well, not only the article was an excerpt from a book published by a computer science professor named Stuart Russell. And we excerpted a chapter, and we did so because we felt that Dr. Russell is an important figure in the field. His is a voice worth listening to. It is a perspective that I personally entirely disagree with, and I think is overblown and even silly.
Excellent. So
wow, tell us how you really feel, Glenn.
No, that's good. That's good. So let me, for our listeners, let me start by just summarizing the article. The headline says many experts say we shouldn't worry about superintelligent AI, but they're wrong. And this is an excerpt from Stuart Russell's new book, and he has a fairly lengthy and detailed set of things that he would argue people are kind of soft pedaling the dangers. So maybe let's start by summarizing his thesis, and then we can pick it apart. How's that sound?
Okay, sure. But I think it's not just his thesis. I think we have to put this in even wider context. So there are a number of people, some of them quite prominent and well known for their brilliance, who have openly expressed misgivings, forebodings, or even outright fear of runaway, what they feel will be runaway artificial intelligence run amok. This is sometimes referred to as the robocalypse. There's all different kinds of terms, but let's run down who some of these people are. There's Bill Gates. There's a fellow at Oxford, I believe, named Nick Bostrom. There's Stephen Hawking, the late Stephen Hawking, who was a proponent of this view before he passed away, a vocal one. And of course, Elon Musk. So all of these folks are on record saying that, AI left unchecked or without any, precautions or measures on our part, it could lead to an apocalypse and indeed the end of human life on this planet.
So basically, you're talking about
I just want to also say that there are another group of folks, Jan LeCun, Larry Page, Steven Pinker, other equally big thinkers on the other side who think these people are full of beans, and I agree with them. I agree with that group of brilliant people that all of this is nonsense and it's overblown and it's silly.
So, then I'm going to play the robocalypse guy for this purposes of this podcast. So, one of the things that the article lays out and that made sense to me is that robots don't need to become sentient in order to be concerned about self-preservation. So if you say to a program, we want you to meet certain objectives, and the objectives include solving a problem, curing cancer, running New York City traffic lights, whatever problem you give them to solve, and then you threaten their ability to continue to compute, they don't have to be human thinking to come up with the analysis that says, wait, if I'm dead, then I can't do my job. So I'm going to do things to resist being dead.
Yeah, well, yes, this was vividly depicted in 2001: A Space Odyssey, there's a poignant scene where a computer basically becomes psychotic and does anything it feels it needs to preserve itself, including trying to kill an astronaut when he feels threatened. This is an old trope, if you will. There are a number of possible responses to this. Steven Pinker had one response, which was, okay, so we're saying that you've got this computer, right, or this more likely a robot, because it would need to have some sort of agency or ability to move and act for it to really fulfill whatever its designs and plans were. It couldn't just be a box, like a bread box sitting on a counter. So we've got this machine, this thing that can think, and it's super intelligent. And the fear is that it will, be part or launch some sort of movement that will result in the extinction of mankind or harm to mankind. So there's two possible options here. It could be that this machine has become super sentient and sophisticated and has human-like abilities to reason and enact plans and programs, and it's evil. And it decides that we are in the way, human beings are in the way, and we need to be exterminated. So that's one possibility. The other possibility is that it has no such evil impulses or desires, but it merely it pursues an objective to such an intense and single-minded extent that it leads to our demise, almost as a byproduct or as a, it's nothing personal. It's just that it has to get this thing done. And if humanity winds up being accidentally exterminated in the process, then, hey, listen, I was just following orders, right? So I think both of these are absurd. I just think they're absurd. The first possibility, where the machine has like human being like powers of reason and planning and long-term vision, and decides that vision human beings are incompatible with it and we have to go, I think it is just absurd and silly, because I really think it's crazy to worry that AI is going to get to that point where we have such a creature in anything like the foreseeable future, and maybe ever. And the reason why I think that's true is because of the nature of AI. Most of these people who are terrified of AI don't really understand what AI is. I think it's worth pointing out that of that group we mentioned, the people who are terrified of AI, only one of them is actually a computer scientist. All the rest of those people are not.
But just to be fair, I'm going to take the pro article role, because actually I think there are two sides to this. If you're a bank teller, for example, or were a bank teller, or are currently a truck driver, or a taxi driver, or a school bus driver, or a long distance hauler, or any of these driving roles, robots took away your job as a bank teller. They got replaced by ATMs, and driverless vehicles are likely to take away your job as a driver. So why is there not actually some threat to portions of humanity that's actually pretty legit?
I actually agree with you there. I agree with you 100% there. That, as artificial intelligence becomes more and more capable, it will in fact lead to significant dislocations in employment. Now, I think this is serious, and I think this is something that really deserves to be considered and studied. And this is important. However, what I believe is happening is that there are these, as I mentioned, these people before: Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Stuart Russell, Nick Bostrom. These people are the ones who've grabbed the spotlight. They are the ones who are, have these platforms, and they're spouting this nonsense about robocalypse. They're not talking about, well, they're not really talking in a big way about people losing their jobs, which I believe is really worth talking about and considering. They're talking about, there's no other term, I guess, except the robocalypse. They're talking about super intelligent, presumably mobile creatures, robots or what have you, working in concert with each other in a way that threatens the continued existence of humanity in the foreseeable future. So, the funny thing about this is that people have been thinking about this for 50 or more years. I mean, you can look back in the history of computer science and you see people worrying about these kinds of things 40 years ago, 30 years ago. Hans Moravec, it was a writer who, and a big thinker, he was a roboticist at Carnegie Mellon. He may still be, but he wrote some books about this back in the 1990s. And in those books, and in other thinking on this topic, some foresaw a paradise. In other words, that once we have robots, supremely capable robots that can outthink us in every respect, that these robots and these creatures, that these, our successors, if you will, these super smart artificial intelligences, would be grateful to us, or we would program them so that, they would make us happy. That would be one of their prime directives. So some of these people actually foresaw that we would have this paradise. We would all live lives of leisure while robots did the heavy lifting of making our food and distributing it and making our clothes and all that. And that we would just be free to enjoy these leisurely, wonderful avocations.
Alexa, I got to ask, what do you think? Do you want to live in a robot paradise?
I mean, we kind of, for me, we're already living it. Like, my interpretation of what you're saying, Glenn, is just that robot apocalypse. Robocalypse. it's too hyperbolic, and that the people who are sort of making us scared of it are preventing progress from being made that could actually be good. And that if we just sort of continue on a path of advancing the technology, that it will move us closer towards a paradise versus an extinction.
That's exactly it. I mean, also, I think another thing worth pointing out is that by focusing attention on this robocalypse, which, again, it's my personal opinion, it's just nonsense, we are not focusing attention on the very real possibility of major labor dislocations brought about by super intelligent machines. The point I want to make is that artificial intelligence is just a ridiculous, vague term. So we got to talk about specific things. Artificial intelligence vaguely refers to certain actual computer techniques and technologies, the most important of which right now is something called neural networks, deep learning and neural networks, which are inextricably linked. So neural networks and deep learning are a tremendously powerful technology, which is really coming into its own now. Some computer scientists believe we've just scratched the surface of what's going to be possible with this. But the point is that everything we know about this technology right now is that it is highly and extremely specific. You can use a neural network and deep learning to do one thing very, very, very well. For example, driving a car. We're not there yet. It can't drive cars really better than we can right now, but we will probably get to that day in our lifetimes. We will probably get to the point where a neural network or some other technology will be able to drive a car better than we can. But that's a highly specific thing.
And that won't lead to
And
extinction.
it's not going to lead to some sort of malevolent, capable actor. That's called an artificial general intelligence, an AGI. This is what people worry about. And I believe that such a thing, an AGI, is a fiction. It's not worth worrying about.
Pause a second. We're out of time. Everyone should read the article. The article is in the show notes. And then you can decide if you're on Glen's side or Steve's fictional side or Alexa's somewhere in the middle side.
I'm just here along for the ride.
Thank you, Glen. Fascinating as always. Talk to you soon.
Happy to help.
Thanks, Glen.
So Glen threw us a little bit of a curve there, starting by saying, oh, by the way, this article, I kind of think it's horsepucky.
Yeah, but Glen also never fails to deliver a strong opinion that he has thought about. So, yeah, I'd like to think more I am in the robo-paradise camp, but that's not nearly as fun to say as robo-apocalypse.
Robo-apocalypse. With that, we are out of time. Next week, we'll have all kinds of stuff to talk about. We're going to definitely check in on what Zuckerberg says at Georgetown and see if he makes any headlines. I'm sure he will. And in the meantime, have an excellent week.
See you next week.